I was seeing quite often over there that her father was in the Air Force, and actually they only got over there about 2 months before I left. And I was seeing her, and she was at the airport when I left.
Elvis Presley's private confession to his best friend revealed a side of him rarely seen by the public. He opened up about his deepest insecurities and the immense pressure he felt under the spotlight. His raw honesty and vulnerability were a shocking revelation to those who only knew him as the king of rock and roll. Elvis Presley, just hearing his name, evokes countless images. His explosive influence on music and culture reshaped entertainment history. From his humble beginnings as a poor country boy to becoming the king of rock and roll, Elvis's journey is a cornerstone of American legend. Despite the extensive attention Elvis has received over the years, the real Elvis often seems to be overlooked. So, who was the genuine Elvis Presley, and what was he like behind closed doors? Among those who claim to know Elvis well, only a few were truly close insiders. One of these was Joe Esposito, Elvis's loyal friend for nearly 20 years. Esposito, the highest-ranking member of Elvis's inner circle, had an exceptional bond with him. He recounts with excitement how, at Elvis's request, he joined the team. "I was thrilled," Esposito recalls. "I couldn't believe I was going to work for Elvis Presley." Just 2 weeks later, he found himself in Memphis, marking the start of an incredible journey. From being an army buddy to serving as an accountant, bodyguard, and bookkeeper, Joe Esposito was deeply involved in Elvis's life. He was Elvis's best man at his wedding, his road manager, and a close friend through over 6,000 live performances and 26 feature films. Affectionately known as Diamond Joe, he was there for it all, and it was indeed a remarkable journey. In Elvis, His Best Friend Remembers, a video scrapbook featuring over 500 rare photographs from Joe Esposito's private collection, along with film clips, newsreels, and candid interviews, we get an intimate look at what life with Elvis was truly like. Esposito takes us behind the scenes for a revealing view of life on the road, on stage, and off, showcasing Elvis's everyday moments and private experiences. Esposito recalls the buzz when he was drafted and heard rumors that Elvis might be drafted around the same time. Despite the speculation that a celebrity like Elvis wouldn't be drafted, both ended up at Fort Hood, Texas. Esposito, though he didn't get a chance to meet Elvis directly there, often saw him around the base. Later, when both were stationed in Germany, Esposito was pleasantly surprised to learn that Elvis was being posted there too. During his time in Germany, Esposito witnessed Elvis navigating the challenges of military life and adjusting to a new environment. Elvis rented a house in Bad Nauheim, near Friedberg, where Esposito recalls Elvis's grandmother would cook Southern meals to his liking. Despite his concerns about how his military service might affect his popularity, Elvis emerged from it more famous than ever. Esposito fondly remembers their final days in Germany and how Elvis invited him to work for him once they returned home. "I was thrilled," Esposito recalls. "I couldn't believe I was going to work for Elvis Presley." And just like that, 2 weeks later, Esposito found himself heading to Memphis, ready for a new chapter with Elvis. "I remember when the hit parade was on TV. Just nice, easygoing music. Then suddenly I started hearing rumors about this young guy with exciting, totally different music. I first saw Elvis Presley on TV in the late 50s, and I was really awestruck. I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. This young man doing all these moves and singing rock and roll. It was astounding to me at the time. I used to be a big fan of Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. That's the kind of music we were into back then. But then Elvis came along, and he was incredible. Watching him on stage, shaking his legs while girls went wild, was something I'd never seen before. At first, it was strange to me, but as I listened to his music more, I started to appreciate him more and more. In fact, I defended him among my friends in Chicago, who were quick to criticize him. The more I heard his songs, the more I liked him. I saw him perform on TV a few times, and he really impressed me as a young entertainer. I started buying his records and enjoyed them a lot. The girls went crazy over him, and my friends and their boyfriends were very upset. At that time, we were quite possessive of our women, and Elvis's impact on them made us all very jealous. It was thrilling when Elvis came onto the scene. He was seen as extremely attractive by the women, and the press didn't like that. The older generation thought his moves were vulgar and had a negative reaction, even accusing him of having the devil in him. But kids saw him differently. He was something new and exciting. They didn't quite understand why he sang and moved the way he did, but he was just being himself. People didn't realize that until later, and now he's almost seen as an angel on stage compared to today's standards. Elvis's fan reactions were always tremendous, as you can see in this rare news footage. The older generation might not have understood his appeal, but his devoted fans saw him as a highly attractive and admirable figure, worthy of being compared to Clark Gable or Cary Grant. Local boy makes good. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, returns to Tupelo, Mississippi. Advanced sales of his new record were through the roof, and the local girls went wild. One even tried to jump on stage and had to be stopped by the cops from getting near his blue suede shoes. His fame was immense. Elvis's early films were a hit too. His first movie was called Love Me Tender, and by the time his third film, Jailhouse Rock, came out, he was really hitting his stride. In Jailhouse Rock, Elvis played a tough guy who ends up in jail, and people really enjoyed it. The movie was a huge success in England and Germany, and catapulted him to global stardom. There's a memorable scene by the swimming pool where Elvis sings, looking incredibly handsome and charismatic, and that's where the press and young people around the world really started to appreciate him. I realized that many of the publicity stills were from Jailhouse Rock, and it was one of the biggest promotional campaigns ever for a movie. The film featured a lot of beautiful women, and it set the trend for making movies with lots of gorgeous women in them. Elvis was deeply involved in the dance sequences, particularly enjoying the famous dance number with all the inmates. He actively collaborated with the choreographer, offering several suggestions on how the dance could be staged. His input was spot on, and all his ideas made it to the screen. This film was pivotal in launching Elvis into international stardom, just before Jailhouse Rock hit theaters. Colonel Parker organized a tour for Elvis, which included a stop in Tupelo, Mississippi. Elvis wanted to host a charity event there to raise funds for the Elvis Presley Youth Project, an organization he founded to support the youth of Tupelo. During the event, Elvis appeared relaxed and had a great time, which provided a unique glimpse into his more personal side. Elvis was always in control, and the footage of him performing has been repeatedly viewed, showcasing his relaxed stage presence and the enthusiastic reactions from his fans. The audience's energy visibly fueled him, creating a dynamic performance. Elvis's parents, Gladys and Vernon, were in the audience, along with Mrs. Parker, Colonel Parker's wife. Elvis sang with heartfelt intensity, and he was often asked about his distinctive dance moves. He would explain that they came naturally to him and were simply a reflection of how he felt in the moment. Even after achieving fame, Elvis continued to study karate. He took lessons from various instructors and was one of the early figures to introduce karate into Hollywood, before Bruce Lee gained prominence. Elvis enjoyed demonstrating karate to celebrities like Ricky Nelson and others. He believed in the art's focus on inner strength and discipline, and it gave him confidence, especially in his youth when he often felt targeted by others. This passion for karate was evident in his onstage performances, where he incorporated martial arts moves. Elvis made 31 feature films over his career, and I was involved in 26 of them. Filmmaking is more challenging than it appears, involving long hours of waiting between shots. In Blue Hawaii, Elvis played a tour guide, and there are memorable shots of him with co-star Darlene Thompson. He worked with Joan Blackman on 2 movies, and he made 3 films in Hawaii. In Girls, 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 Elvis played a helicopter pilot, further cementing his image as a heartthrob. While working on films, Elvis was known for his generosity toward fans. On location in Napa, California, for Wild in the Country, Colonel Parker organized an autograph session for fans. During breaks, Elvis would interact with fans, like the Watermelon Queen of the county, and take time to chat and sign autographs. Elvis's first movie was the Western Love Me Tender, where he played Clint Rena. In Jailhouse Rock, you can spot some of his Memphis friends in the background. In Harem Scarum, a low-budget film where Elvis played a sheik, he worked alongside Marianne Mobley, a former Miss America from Mississippi, and they got along famously. I was really nervous because I'm not an actor, but director Norman Torog chose to include me in one scene. My family and friends in Chicago were thrilled to see me on camera. One of Elvis's favorite co-stars was Aunt Margaret from Viva Las Vegas, and in Speedway, he worked with Nancy Sinatra, a good friend of his. The shoot for The Trouble with Girls was a lot of fun. Marilyn Mason, Elvis's co-star, kept things lively with her jokes and playful antics. Elvis really enjoyed working with her, and you could see how much fun he had in the football scene, where he's smiling and running for a touchdown. During the filming of Stay Away Joe in Sedona, Arizona, a beautiful place, Elvis invited Priscilla and my wife Joan to visit the set. It was a rare treat for them to see the area, and we had a great time together. I had a small role in Elvis's movies from time to time. In this case, it was in Stay Away Joe. There was a scene where I was repossessing Elvis's car. While filming Flaming Star in California, I was practicing karate, and Elvis showed off how tough his knuckles had become from hitting boards and bricks. In Sunset and Flaming Star, I chatted with Jerry Schilling and Sonny West, good friends who worked with Elvis. Elvis was great about including family and friends in his movies. In Live a Little, Love a Little, he used his dad as a model in one scene. We shot that at the Los Angeles Music Center and on the beach in Malibu. During the filming of Live a Little, Love a Little, Elvis would sometimes smoke a thin cigar and rehearse his lines between takes. I worked on a movie with Mary Tyler Moore called Change of Habit at Universal Studios. Elvis and the guys would occasionally visit the Universal backlot. Elvis's good friend, George Barris, the custom car king, built a Cadillac limousine for Spin-Out. While RCA executives were on set presenting Elvis with gold albums, Elvis was curious about how movies were made, often checking out camera shots and learning about the process. In the documentary That's the Way It Is, Elvis is seen here posing with his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, and Philip Don, the director. Elvis gave his tandem bicycle to the English fan club president, who took it back to England to show other fans. Elvis was very generous. Colonel Parker, too, was kind-hearted. He read that President Roosevelt's yacht, the U.S. Potomac, was going to be scrapped. Colonel suggested buying it to preserve it as a piece of history and donate it to a charity. He approached the March of Dimes, but they declined, so he gave it to St. Jude's instead. When we were in Vegas, the Colonel set up a press conference in Long Beach to present the boat to Danny Thomas. He had one side of the boat painted for the press, leaving the other side untouched. It was amusing, and when we arrived, there was a large press turnout and many fans. Despite being late for Danny Thomas, Elvis took time to sign autographs for everyone, always making his fans a priority. Elvis and Priscilla had been dating for a long time, and when she turned 21, Elvis knew it was time to get married. He was deeply in love with her, and it was clear that they were meant to be together. The marriage license was returned to the hotel, and the rest of the family arrived, started getting dressed, and put on our tuxedos. By around 10 or 10:30, we all went to the suite where the wedding was set up in Las Vegas. It was a wedding for Elvis Presley, the man who practically invented rock and roll, and Priscilla Beaulieu, a friend of his for 8 years. Elvis, the 32-year-old from Mississippi who revolutionized singing, gave his bride a 20-carat diamond ring. Elvis met Priscilla while stationed in Germany. She was a high school student and the daughter of a lieutenant colonel. It was the first marriage for both. When Priscilla walked into the room, she was so beautiful and stunning that it took your breath away. She looked absolutely wonderful, though she was very nervous, much more so than Elvis, who had a great smile on his face. You could see how much they loved each other, and it was heartwarming to witness their happiness. The ceremony was very intimate, with only a few people present. The judge conducted the ceremony solemnly, and the overall mood was quite nice. My feelings were of happiness seeing the two of them so joyful. They made a beautiful couple. Priscilla was gorgeous, and they were both such nice, fun-loving people. I was excited to be there and to realize how my life had changed since before the Army. Meeting these people made me feel honored to be there at that moment. After the ceremony, we immediately went to a press conference where Elvis talked about his marriage. Then we had a small wedding reception with cake, musicians, and some nice music and a little party for family and friends. We flew back to Palm Springs, and Rona Barrett was waiting outside, upset because she thought Elvis would get married in Palm Springs. It was great to have fooled the press. Elvis preferred his privacy, and it worked out well. Back in Palm Springs, we relaxed and enjoyed the beautiful day. We sat outside in the sun, and I remember Elvis getting up from his chair to cut a rose for Priscilla from the garden. It was a sweet, romantic gesture. We had a lovely dinner prepared by the maids and spent a few days there before returning to Memphis, where Elvis's real honeymoon took place at his ranch. Elvis enjoyed Hawaii, where he often vacationed. Despite being a big celebrity, he loved the relaxation and privacy it offered. He preferred staying at the Hilton Hotel for its security, although we would spend days at a rented house on a private beach. We'd party at the house, relax on the beach, and snorkel. The locals were respectful of his privacy, allowing him to enjoy his vacation. One memorable time, Tom Jones was performing in Hawaii, and we went to see his show. We invited Tom to join us at the house, and we had a great day with him. We even made him a peanut butter sandwich, which he wasn't too fond of. During a press conference in Hawaii, Elvis announced a charity concert for the USS Arizona Memorial, which he organized to raise money for the Navy. We took our wives and the whole group to visit the memorial, which Elvis had contributed to. It was the first time he saw it after the concert, and the visit was very somber and beautiful. The admirals took us on a tour, keeping the crowds away, and we saw a plaque acknowledging Elvis's contribution. We didn't always have the time, but next we could be home. Saab could sleep easy, and we were going to Palm Springs this weekend. I remember our trip to New York for Elvis's concerts at Madison Square Garden. He had never played in New York before, and had always said that the New York Gardens are tough on performers. They really test you. He was a bit worried about it, so Colonel Parker set up a big press conference at the New York Hilton, where we were staying. Elvis was surprisingly relaxed. When he walked into that press conference with his dad and the rest of the team, he handled the press superbly. They asked great questions, and he answered them effortlessly. It was a great experience. Despite his nerves about how the audience would react, once he stepped on stage, the crowd went wild, and he relaxed immediately. I don't criticize other entertainers. There's room for everyone. The image is one thing, but being a real person is another. It's tough to live up to an image. Our audience is diverse, with a mix of older and younger people. Finding good material is challenging these days, especially hard rock. If I could find good songs, I'd perform them. I'd like to think we've proven ourselves over the past 15 years, not just musically but personally as well. If people don't recognize me or ask for autographs, it's just part of the business, and I accept it. I'd actually miss it if it were gone. I remember when Elvis met Priscilla in Germany. She was a young 14-year-old girl, though neither of us realized her age at the time. She was nervous meeting Elvis and his entourage. Elvis, being kind, jumped up to introduce himself, and they started talking. We left them alone to get to know each other. It was tough being Elvis's girlfriend with all the temptation around, but Priscilla was strong. When Priscilla was pregnant with Lisa Marie, Elvis was thrilled. He loved children and animals, and having his own child was a dream come true. Seeing him so excited and happy about being a father was heartwarming. It wasn't just Elvis Presley, it was the joy of becoming a dad. This is 1174 Hillcrest Drive, Trousdale Estates. This house holds many memories. Elvis and Priscilla lived here when they got married, and it was Lisa Marie's first California home. I recall that Elvis almost bought the lot next door before Danny Thomas built his house there, but he missed out by just 2 weeks. Instead, he bought this beautiful home, which became the site of many family gatherings and Easter egg hunts. This is 144 Montville Drive, the house Elvis and Priscilla moved into after Hillcrest. They needed more space, and this house had a large backyard for Lisa Marie to enjoy. They lived here until 1977. Lisa Marie was such a sweet kid, and my daughters, Debbie and Cindy, who were a bit older than her, spent a lot of time together. We had Easter egg hunts, birthday parties, and vacations. Lisa Marie had a wonderful personality, always cheerful and playful. She was definitely spoiled by Elvis, who would buy her anything she wanted, even things she didn't really need. I was simply amazed by his talent. Somehow, it never reached me through records as it did for everyone else in person. It was magical, and to this day, I've never seen a performer quite like him. I knew at the time it was something special. There was always this awareness that something extraordinary was happening. Looking back now, that feeling is magnified a billion times. Everyone associated with him felt this sense of being meant to be together. It was a strange experience. After my divorce, he met a girl named Linda Thompson from Memphis, introduced by George Klein. Linda had a great personality, always upbeat, happy, joking around, and beautiful. She was perfect for us at the time. We all loved her, and she and Elvis spent a lot of time together. She was a very positive person, and that was a great thing about her. However, as time went on, Linda wanted to pursue her own life. The constant traveling and hectic lifestyle were too much for her. She wanted a more settled, normal life, so they went their separate ways. It was tough for all of us, but Linda was wonderful for us. I'm standing here in front of the old MGM studios where Elvis made most of his movies. We had a lot of fun here, with great times and fantastic parties. Celebrities shooting other films on the lot would visit us. Elvis would talk with them, get acting tips, and it felt like one big party for many years. Elvis didn't get to know many stars well, and he didn't feel comfortable around Hollywood elites. He was basically a shy individual and felt more at ease with his friends. He'd invite co-stars to the house, where we'd just hang out, talk, and play music. I remember when Don Sutton, the pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, visited Elvis. He was a big fan, and we all posed for a photo together. Elvis was also a huge football fan and heard Jim Brown was filming a movie at 20th Century Fox. He contacted a friend named Rick Custody, who brought Jim Brown over to meet Elvis. We have a photo with Jim Brown in the middle, surrounded by Billy Smith, Elvis's cousin, Alan Fortas, Richard Davis, myself, Marty Lacker, and James Kingsley. Governor Buford Ellington declared Elvis Presley Day, and we posed for a picture with the governor and his beautiful daughter. I also spent time with Tuesday Weld, Elvis's co-star from Wild in the Country. She was a great person and became like one of the gang. I even dated her for a while. Celebrities often came to see Elvis, curious about the new rock and roll star. They would watch his films and stand in the background. During breaks, I'd talk to them, and they were very nice, just like ordinary people, which was nice to see. Traveling with a big star like Elvis meant we had to be very concerned about security. We had a top-notch security team that meticulously planned our routes in and out of hotels and concert venues. We had to fool the press and fans to avoid problems, and our security team, including Red West, Sonny West, and Dick Grob, was highly professional. We were recommended for security setups, but we kept it private. It wasn't easy, as fans didn't make it any easier. Elvis didn't like pushing his friends away. He'd sign autographs for hours, even though we often needed to rush him in and out to keep to our schedule. Unfortunately, we only saw the back of hotels and concert venues. People would comment on how wonderful it must be to travel and see beautiful places, but we saw nothing of the sort. Our travels were through loading docks, kitchens, and freight elevators. Later, we were dubbed the Memphis Mafia because Elvis liked us to do things differently. We'd arrive in black mohair suits, white shirts, and black ties, in a big limousine, and that was how we made our entrance.